My father handed me a single black duffel bag and pointed to the front door. "You're the strong one, Maya. You'll be fine. Your sister isn't built for the real world like you are." On my 18th birthday, I stood on the cold pavement with $40 in my pocket while my older sister, Chloe, watched from the second-story window with a smirk. My crime: refusing to take the blame for a reckless mistake that would have sent Chloe to prison and ruined her perfect future. My parents chose her comfort over my survival, casting me off like trash. Follow my story to the end, and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my voice has reached. Because 10 years later, when my parents begged me to save Chloe from the absolute mess she made, I showed up to the family dinner with a lawyer, a non-negotiable contract, and a secret that shattered their entire world. My name is Maya, and today I'm 28 years old. But every time I close my eyes, I'm right back on the porch of my childhood home on my 18th birthday. My father handed me a single black duffel bag, packed with a few clothes and basic toiletries, and pointed toward the street. "You're the strong one, Maya. You'll be fine. Your sister isn't built for the real world like you are." My crime: refusing to take the fall for my older sister, Chloe. Chloe was 21, the golden child who could do no wrong. She had taken our father's business credit card to fund a weekend trip with her friends, racking up thousands in unauthorized charges and altering digital records to hide it, a stunt that verged on criminal fraud. When the bank flagged the discrepancy, Chloe broke down crying, claiming I had stolen the login credentials. My parents didn't even investigate. They knew Chloe had a fragile reputation to maintain for her corporate internship. "Maya, if this goes on Chloe's record, her career is over before it starts," my mother pleaded, her eyes cold with desperation. "Just tell them it was a misunderstanding on your account. You're resilient. You can handle a temporary bump in the road." When I refused to sign a statement accepting responsibility, my father's face hardened. He packed that single bag, opened the front door, and told me I was no longer part of the family. As I walked down the driveway into the freezing rain with $40 to my name, I looked up. Chloe was standing at her bedroom window, holding a glass of wine, a subtle, triumphant smirk playing on her lips. They sacrificed my entire future just to shield her from the consequences of her own actions. That first night on the street taught me a lesson I'd never forget. Survival doesn't leave room for self-pity. With only $40 in my pocket and one bag to my name, I walked until my legs burned, ending up at a 24-hour diner just to stay out of the freezing rain. The manager, a tired woman named Rita, took one look at my soaked clothes and offered me a job washing dishes starting at 5 the next morning. For the first 2 months, I slept in a beat-up sedan I bought off a local mechanic for $300, using public restroom sinks to wash my face before grinding through 16-hour double shifts. While I was drowning in exhaustion, my family made sure I was completely erased. Extended relatives stopped answering my calls. My parents had spun a narrative that I was a rebellious runaway who had abandoned them. Meanwhile, through mutual acquaintances, I heard updates about Chloe's charmed life. My parents had paid off her massive credit card debt, bought her a brand new crossover SUV, and funded her plush apartment downtown. Every mistake she made was swept under a rug woven from my father's life savings. Instead of letting bitterness consume me, I funneled that fury into ambition. I used the diner's spotty Wi-Fi to take online courses in financial auditing and corporate risk assessment. I studied until 3 in the morning, mastering how high-stakes debts were restructured and how wealthy people hid their vulnerabilities. By 22, I landed an entry-level analyst position at a regional asset management firm. I was relentless. First one in, last one out. Over the next 6 years, I worked my way up from a cubicle temp to senior partner at one of the top distressed asset acquisition firms on the West Coast. I built a life of absolute security, buying a high-rise condo overlooking the city, a place where no one could ever tell me I didn't belong. For 10 whole years, there was total radio silence from my family. Not a birthday text, not a Christmas card. As far as they were concerned, the daughter they threw away no longer existed. Little did I know, while I was quietly building an empire from nothing, Chloe was systematically burning theirs to the ground. 10 years of silence ended on a random Tuesday afternoon. My desk was piled with high-value acquisition files when my phone vibrated with a number I hadn't seen in a decade. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. The moment I pressed the call button, my mother's voice erupted into the speaker. Not with an apology, not with warmth, but with breathless, hysterical sobbing. "Maya! Oh God, Maya, please don't hang up. We don't know who else to turn to." She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask where I was living or how I'd survived after they threw me to the curb with $40. Instead, the story came pouring out in a frantic wave of desperation. Over the past decade, Chloe's golden future had been a complete illusion. To maintain her high society image, she had launched 3 failing boutique businesses, each funded by my father's retirement accounts and secondary mortgages on the family home. When my father ran out of cash, Chloe didn't stop. She took out high-interest private loans under the family business name, forging my father's signature just like she had tried to do to me 10 years ago. Now, the debt collector vultures were circling. The bank had issued a final foreclosure notice on their house, the business accounts were frozen, and Chloe was facing immediate legal action for loan fraud. "The auction is in 2 weeks, Maya," my mother wept, her voice dripping with synthetic urgency. "They're going to take everything we own. Your sister is hysterical. She can't handle prison, Maya. Her mind is too fragile." Then came the punchline, the breathtaking entitlement that made my blood run cold. "We heard from your cousin that you're working in finance now," my mother said, stepping right over a decade of abandonment. "We need you to take out a loan or use your savings to cover Chloe's debts. It's nearly $400,000. You've always been the strong one, Maya. You can bounce back from anything. It's time for you to step up and save your family." I sat back in my leather office chair, listening to her beg for the very daughter she had discarded. A slow, razor-sharp smile spread across my face. "Let's meet for dinner tonight," I told her quietly. "Bring Dad and Chloe. I'll bring the solution." I chose the most expensive steakhouse in the city for our reunion, a place where the waiters wore white gloves and a single glass of wine cost more than my father's weekly paycheck. When I walked into the private dining room, my parents and Chloe were already seated. They looked exhausted, worn down by a decade of covering up Chloe's disasters. Chloe sat in the center, wrapped in a designer shawl that I knew was bought with money they couldn't afford. Her eyes wide with a mix of fake anxiety and underlying arrogance. The moment they saw my tailored suit and custom briefcase, their eyes lit up with sheer greed. They didn't see the daughter they threw away at 18. They saw a walking bank account. "Maya!" my father exclaimed, standing up with open arms, pretending the last 10 years of radio silence had never happened. "Look at you. We knew you'd make something of yourself. You were always so independent." I didn't hug him. I sat down at the head of the table, placed my leather briefcase on the crisp white tablecloth, and looked each of them in the eye. "Let's skip the small talk," I said, my voice dead calm. "Mom said you need $400,000 to clear Chloe's high-interest private loans and stop the bank from auctioning the house." Chloe leaned forward, dabbing away a single, theatrical tear. "Maya, I made a mistake. Some bad investments. People took advantage of me. You know how soft-hearted I am. If Dad's house goes to auction, it'll be my fault. Please, you're the strong one. You can afford to help us." "I do know how soft-hearted you are, Chloe," I replied, opening my briefcase. "And I know all about those private loans. Apex Restructuring, Crescent Capital, Vanguard Liabilities. You owe money to 5 different distressed debt agencies." My father sighed with relief. "So you'll pay them off. You'll take out a mortgage for us." "I don't need to pay them off," I said, pulling out a thick stack of legal documents and sliding them across the table. "Because over the last 6 months, my firm bought those debt portfolios. I don't just work in finance, Dad. I am the senior managing partner at the firm that owns every single one of Chloe's defaulted loans, and the secondary mortgage on your house." The color drained from my father's face. Chloe stopped dabbing her eyes, her mouth hanging open in shock. "You," my mother whispered, her voice trembling. "You own our debt. I own everything, I said, leaning in. Every dime Chloe borrowed, every lien on your home, every signature she forged over the last 5 years. I hold the paper on all of it. You threw me out with $40 to protect her future. And now her future and yours is sitting right here in my hands. The room was dead silent. The heavy silence was broken only by the sound of my mother quietly sobbing into her hands, but this time I felt no guilt, only absolute crystal-clear control. I pulled out a final, single-page document and slid it across the mahogany table toward my father. This is a legally binding restructuring agreement. I'm not foreclosing on your house tomorrow, and I'm not pressing criminal charges against Chloe for forgery. On one condition. My father looked at the paper with trembling hands. What condition? You sign over the deed to the home directly to my firm, I said, my voice cutting through the quiet room like a knife. You and Mom can live there rent-free for the rest of your lives. But Chloe is officially off the gravy train. Her designer clothes, her allowance, her bailouts. It all ends tonight. She will sign a personal repayment contract with my corporate legal team and work off every penny she owes through mandatory paycheck deductions at a real job. No more protecting her. No more sacrifices. Chloe gasped, looking at our parents with wide, panicked eyes. Mom, you can't let her do this to me. Tell her no. My father looked at Chloe, then down at the papers and finally at me. For the first time in 10 years, he saw me for who I truly was. He realized that in their rush to protect the daughter who destroyed them, they had completely discarded the only daughter who had the strength to save them. Without saying a single word to Chloe, he took out a pen and signed his name on the dotted line. I gathered the documents, placed them neatly back into my briefcase, and stood up. 10 years ago, you threw me out on the street and told me I was the strong one. You were right. I was the strong one. And now I'm the one who decides how this story ends. I turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving them sitting in the quiet wreckage of their own choices. For the first time in my life, as the cool night air hit my face, I breathed completely free. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have shown them mercy, or made them face the consequences? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the video on your screen for another crazy story. Thank you for watching.